And welcome. You're listening to the Carolina Independent News Report with Matt Burton. I'm your host, Matt Burton, and today in the studio I'm joined with Republican candidate for District 2 for York County, Doug Meyer-Cuno. Doug, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here, Matt.
Yes, sir. So I know it's been a very unique campaign cycle this year. Everybody's ready for District 2's election. You know, it's been fun. It's been interesting. But today we're going to get to know Doug Meyer-Cuno a little better. Doug, tell us in a nutshell, who is Doug Meyer-Cuno?
Well, I grew up in Lake Wylie. I moved there in 1973, so I was 11 years old. I'm from the area, went to Furman University, graduated, took a circuitous route back to the area, started a business in 1990 called Carolina Ingredients. Moved it from Pineville, North Carolina, down to Rock Hill, back basically at the end of 2009, 2010, and have a couple of kids. And I'm basically just your average guy who somehow decided he wanted to create a business and become an entrepreneur, and have decided that over the years, this has grown into being very involved in the community. I'm blessed to have the opportunity to serve on couple of boards such as the Economic Board, York County Economic Board, which led me to run for office.
Very nice. So somewhere you lost your mind and running for office now.
Yeah, you go, at this point you go, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Because right now you're really devoted to 40 hours a week easily of running a campaign and somehow fitting a job in at the same time, and it is absolutely full throttle.
Right. Tell us, why exactly are you running? You know, because I know a lot of people, they say, well, I'm running for this, I'm running for that. Why are you running?
Yeah. It's a great question, Matt. And if you had asked me a year ago at this time, I would have said you wouldn't have seen me run for District 2 or County Council. At the end of the day, when you look at our county and look at the district, our district is maybe shortchanged when you compare it to the rest of York County. And we are a revenue producer, certainly, for York County, District 2 is, and we certainly don't see an adequate of the funds or an equal distribution of the funds. So we don't have the best representation, and when I looked at that and I saw what was happening and being involved on the York County Economic Board, I felt I could make a difference. I've been very blessed in my life, and I felt that I could give the hours and dedicate the hours necessary to run, and I felt this was time for me to give back to the community.
You know what, I was going to wait on this question, but since we went ahead and jumped into it, the C funds.
Yes.
And actually on my way up here, I called to get the actual number, because I'm a statistic man, because I'm a numbers man. $2,170.76 in the fiscal year of 2015. Mm-hmm. I don't see anything being built in York County with that hospitality tax money.
With the C funds or hospitality?
Oh, excuse me, the hospitality tax. The hospitality tax, $2 million, and there's not much going on in District 2.
Yeah. We do have some of that money going towards the new ball field that's been allocated for resources. But overall, we have not. And as you just mentioned, when you talk about the hospitality tax, if you're incorporated, you get a percentage of that. I think it's half of the percent is 2%. You would get one, and if you're not, you get a 2% allocation of the funds. If I understand it right, but the unincorporated area is allowed to use that hospitality tax to better the community. It would be great if we used it from the standpoint that we take that money and help our economy, invest in the community in a way it's going to pump, long term, it's going to pump economic growth into the economy of District 2.
Right. And now let's go to the C funds, as I was mixing both of them up, and thank you for clarifying, because I was thinking about both of them at the same time, because the C funds, I know that Clover, like I said, I talked to some leaders in Clover, and their question is, how would the next councilman distribute the C fund money?
So the C fund monies actually come from the state, and you get a certain amount of money, and I think it's around that $2.4 million you were talking about, if I'm not mistaken, and that's split up between the 7 districts, okay? And I was at a Pennies for Progress meeting the other night. We were talking about the C Fund money, and basically each district gets roughly $400,000. What are you going to do with $400,000? I mean, you can't expand Highway 55 or 557. You basically can repave or resurface an area of road or maybe fill potholes. It's very difficult to do something with the C Fund money, given that that dollar value is split between the 7 districts.
And it's, from what I've read, it's based on land area, not population as well. And it seems that this area, District 2, I mean, we're the hottest growing thing right now.
You know, when you look at District 2, I believe I read in a magazine the other day that if you look at the growth in Lake Wylie, it is now, we're not a city, right? But if you compared it to Tegakea and Rock Hill, we are the 3rd largest area, and if you called it "quote unquote" a town or a city, it would be the 3rd largest compared to Rock Hill, Tegakea. I take that back. I think it's Rock Hill, Fort Mill, and then the Lake Wylie area. We're actually larger than Tegakea,
right,
in population. So it would be 3rd, and then Tegakea would be 4th. But that is really surprising. As you know, Matt, you grew up in the area. 15 years ago, it was just this little river area.
Yeah,
and
it was woods.
Right. And
woods and a road in it.
And it used to be 2 lanes not all that long ago,
No.
15 years ago. And now we've got, major highway 49 that goes through with, it's 4 lanes, actually 5 because it's got a median. And the growth is just coming, and it's not stopping. I mean, it's just coming in waves.
Do you think that the county has failed on halting some of the growth? Because me, of course, I'm very pro-growth. Obviously, we have to be pro-growth. But there's a time, and obviously, if because you have to mature and go with it. Because are we growing too fast?
We have 4,500 homes that are either platted or approved to be platted or in the process of being approved. Those homes will be built over the next 5 years. Obviously, you can't build 4,500 homes in a year, and you have to go through the permitting process and so forth. So the question, are we growing too fast? I think maybe the better question is, are we growing in a sustainable and well-balanced approach? And in my opinion, we're not. And here's why. For every dollar we raise from a property stance or residential property tax standpoint, we spend $1.45. So again, for every property tax we raise, residential property tax we raise at $1, we spend $1.45. So we're pear-shaped. We're spending more money than we are bringing in. The way we make that up is on the commercial side or the business side, and we raise $1 and we spend 30 cents. So we're reversed. Here's the problem that we have in District 2. We are rezoning the properties so fast for residential that we're not preserving anything for commercial development.
There's nothing left,
right?
Especially Highway 49. I mean, the Taco Bell got a little square, square inch of property, but there's nothing left even for green space, hardly.
There's, as you know, there's very little green space, and so from that standpoint, the county hasn't done a very good job of being proactive and controlling the overall land use of our area. I mean, I'm not going to say York County as a whole because there are certain areas of York County that are in pretty good shape. But as a whole, we're seeing the growth come so fast that we haven't set up parameters or comprehensive plans and an active measure that would allow us to preserve some plots of land for green space or parks or even green space next to water, next to Lake Wylie to preserve the quality of life that we're accustomed to.
With the, let's jump back to hospitality tax, and I know that I wanted to continue on hospitality tax, but I wanted to address the C funds, since we already, kind of did that by accident. The hospitality tax, do you think Clover is getting shortchanged there?
When you talk about Clover, there's a town of Clover, which is roughly, it's a very small town, roughly 4,000 or 5,000 people in it, I believe. My my answer is that the area, not necessarily the town, but the area of Clover, which certainly the majority of it is encompassed by District 2, some of it is in District 3, certainly hasn't had the name recognition and leadership to allow it to receive the services that it should. I think that's probably the best way to put it. We can certainly do better in that area, and we should do better in that area. That's a complicated question.
Yeah. With Lake Wiley, we're getting a lot of things. We're getting the new, aquatic center. That's going to be great. Proposed ballpark. That's great. But I just still think out of that, just the hospitality tax money we received was $2 million. Now, District 2, I tried to get an answer to how much we got spent. Obviously, I don't see much being spent in District 2. But like you said, with the water, with the ballpark, then take that into consideration.
And they did give a percentage of the, and I'm drawing a blank on the dollar amount, so I'm not going to give an estimate because I don't want to be inaccurate. But part of the hospitality tax did go towards the Y.
Okay.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was $1 million over a 3-year period of time. So just divide that out, roughly $330,000 a year over a 3-year period of time. Now, don't hold me to that, because this is going back in my memory bank several months. But I think that's the case. So there was allocated funds given to the area. But, there's a lot of unincorporated area between Lake Wiley and Clover, and also on the other side of Clover.
Right.
On the other side of 321.
Right.
So there's quite a land mass that is probably not being considered.
I got you. Let's go to taxes. I'm very fiscally conservative. I like to know where my money is being spent. But my thing is, we have all this need. Pennies for progress. Is that money, should it be more? I mean, should we add another penny onto it just to get our roads looking good? Or is that project still working? Is it still, because there's so many roads in York County that's still way behind?
The biggest problem is what we have is we don't get enough funds from South Carolina. We don't get enough state funds. There was a huge filibuster, as I'm sure you're aware of, down in South Carolina that stopped the gasoline tax, and that would have allocated hundreds of millions of dollars to the state for roads. I was down at the York County Day meeting down at Columbia back in, I think it was February, maybe March. And if South Carolina could take all of their roads, I think 80%, 85% of the roads are listed as fair or worse shape. So you could spend a lot of money on roads, and you still wouldn't solve all the problems. So when it comes to the district and to our area, we would get a portion of that money, which would not be enough to fix our roads today. So there's two questions. Are the roads safe? And the short answer is no, really not. And if you drive down some of the roads, you got potholes. There's a risk. There's a safety risk involved. So that's one aspect. Secondly, can the roads handle the number of people that are coming to this community? And the short answer is no. So if you say, well, we only want to allocate a certain number of resources or funds to the roads, my answer would be, are we investing in the future? And at the end of the day, we have to invest in the future. We also have to secure a safe environment from a road standpoint. Let's face it, we have children that are 15, 16, 17 years old that are going to drive on that road and pull out of a Clover High School, for example, on the 55, and it's a 2-lane road. And eventually there probably needs to be 4 lanes and a stoplight. So going back to your original question of do we spend more money, I think it's do we invest more money? And the answer is yes, we have to find a way to invest more money. And secondly, where does those resources come from? We were joking the other day, Matt, some friends and I, and we said there should be a pennies for potholes. And I don't know if you know this, but South Carolina spends $30 million a year, basically like an insurance fund, to fix and repair.
Just for the cars.
That's exactly right. To fix cars that have been damaged by potholes. And I've experienced that.
Yeah.
So.
Going back to the filibuster, $2.44 off of gasoline goes into the C fund. And if we lose that, we lose. I mean, South Carolina already has some of the worst roads, especially York County. And now if we would have lost that, this would have been...
Well, you also have bridge problems. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you're familiar with a little area called Lincoln Road.
Oh, yeah.
But not far off of Lincoln Road, there's a bridge that's being rebuilt right now. And I think it was actually washed out. And if that's a detour road, and you drive down that road now, and it is pothole heaven. I mean, it is just full of potholes. And if you're an inexperienced driver, you're going to be challenged when another car is coming towards you in the opposite direction, and you're going to have to navigate the pothole situation. I mean, I don't want to be a worry-Nelly, but again, it comes down to safety, and it comes down to investing in the future and how do you build the infrastructure. And in my opinion, government, particularly counties and towns and states, have an obligation for building infrastructure. And if we're going to spend money, it ought to be spent, number one, on infrastructure.
Well, Doug, give us 1 second. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get back to some more questions that I want to know about, and I'm sure our listeners want to hear back. So give us 1 second. We'll be right back.